Mm, cool. I wanted to touch on something you just mentioned. You said that you were 90% sure about the part two, and I was curious if you could speak to that 10% of doubt that you have. Like, is that clear in your mind? Like, what that could mean?
What that means is just that I think that data and logic is a very, as I said, very graceful simplification. But it could be that there's another way of specifying the nature of that absolute. Some people, for instance, go in for consciousness or mind, as the ground, as the nature of that ground. And in fact, this is the notion of religion, the notion at the heart of religion. Every religious person agrees that there has to be something non-contingent. They just call that thing God, and I've never seen an argument for identifying it with God that I've found compelling. That certainly doesn't mean no one could ever come up with one. And even if it were not a God or mind or consciousness or however you might phrase that, in principle, there could be another formulation other than data and logic. Now, I'm inclined to think that that would be synonymous or interchangeable on that level, but it might not be. And really, it's hard to tell without actually coming face to face with an alternative formulation of that step to be able to tell which is superior and whether they're conceptually equivalent or what have you.
So, yeah, I imagine that any conception of God based on DM theory would be just as synonymous with data as opposed to adding anything to the concept of data that doesn't exist there.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to describe a concept of God in line with data and logic, it would be, I see metaphysics as being about the ground, the ground of being. And I guess I would think of God as the pinnacle or the highest point, like maybe similar to, Terence McKenna's transcendental object at the end of time, like an emergent end state where consciousness sort of evolves and complexifies and fuses into some kind of hive mind cosmic consciousness kind of, yeah. And that even potentially then goes on to spawn new worlds, to have inner worlds and inner worlds. And, I'm not sure, but I would usually think of it, I guess, as the kind of most complex manifestation of data and logic rather than as something fundamental or at the bottom.
Cool. Just letting that sink in.